Welcome to In Pursuit of Truth. This is your host, Sir Patrick Mac. Boys and girls, we've got the Mueller hearing coming up this week. Are we about to take the gloves off? Do you have your popcorn? I don't know if you need to eat it just yet, but you might want to buy some. You might want to have some in the pantry or wherever you keep your popcorn. It's this week, is what I'm saying. Meanwhile, Democrats are getting kind of lippy on Twitter. Seems a little bit excessive to me.
Woof, woof.
I know, right? They're all like, woof. They do that all the time on Twitter. It's fun to rile them up, though. How many we got? 2. Yes. 34:58, 35 minutes after the hour of 3. Q starts us off with a Twitter link to James Nobody's Homie Comey. And he's talking about an American patriot. I wonder who it is. This week, an American patriot takes center stage. He doesn't want attention, has principles, and follows them. So it's not you, and always tells the truth. What an opportunity for young people to be inspired. What a great opportunity for both parties in Congress to follow his example. Oh, we're talking about Robert Mueller. That's what we're doing. Okay, well, this sounds a little bit like a veiled threat to me. What an opportunity for young people to be inspired. Also known as, hey, Antifa, hit the streets. What a great opportunity for both parties in Congress to follow his example. Sounds like you're encouraging them to shut their mouths. And of course, Robert Mueller doesn't want attention, has principles and follows them, and always tells the truth. So that sounds kind of like maybe an obfuscated threat right there. And then, of course, you've got a little generalized threat to Congress. I don't know, maybe not, but I'm just saying. Anyway, Q says, if AG Barr has access to all classified material, how does Mueller navigate? Yeah, well, that's really the question, right? And that's exactly why Mueller doesn't want to do this, because it really doesn't really put him in a good position at all. And, of course, the average left-leaning, unhinged Democrat is probably crying for this, thinking that this is going to bust everything wide open, not really understanding that it is so gonna bust things wide open. If Mueller provides false and or misleading testimony, will AG Barr be forced to declass all documentation to ensure full public awareness of the truth? Well, that is precisely what Mueller is afraid of. He knows that the only thing he can really talk about are things, otherwise, if he contradicts anything that he's already stated or said, Barr has the right to open it all up. And whether Democrats think they want that or not, that's probably where this is going to go. If Mueller defers to the original report, but Democrats, fake news, push a false narrative knowing majority of the public did not watch the actual hearing, will AG Barr be forced to declass all documentation to ensure full public awareness of the truth? Yeah, and that's really the heart of the matter, right? Mueller is in a rock and a hard place, because if he sticks to the story, which is the smartest thing for him to do, then this really puts fake news out on Front Street, because they're the ones that have been crying about this for a long time. And of course, Hollywood doesn't want to see that either. If you remember, this was just a few weeks back. All the Hollywood stars like Alyssa Milano and her gang of thespians, they did a reading of the Mueller report. Not really sure how that went over, but yeah, they did. And they think that this is really busting something wide open. They don't realize that, this has nothing to do with collusion at this point, and all it's really going to lead to is the FISA D-class. So go ahead and do it. Be ready, Mueller. Be ready, JC, James Comey. Be ready, traitors, one and all. And all these are in brackets, so it makes me wonder if there's going to be 3 drops of information, 3 things declassified. Not really sure. It likely has to do with the Mueller hearing. I'm not so sure this is even going to go through. It wouldn't surprise me if they stall it or they cancel it. We'll have to see. But we all know that Mueller didn't want to do this. And we should all know why at this point. Like I said, rock and a hard place. If he tells the truth, then fake news gets exposed. And if he lies, then he gets exposed and we declass FISA. Either way, it looks like we're probably going to declass anyway, but it's just going to come out in slow, bacony, cheesy bites. Thanks for playing. FISA goes both ways, meaning that we can put FISAs on you, which means we likely have your Xbox comms and your Sony PlayStation comms and your WhatsApp and your Viber and your WeChat. And I can't think of any more right now, so we're just going to move on to the next post. Post 3459, 41 minutes after the hour of 3, we get another Twitter link right here. And this one's to one of my favorite people on the planet, the Habes, Maggie Haberman. And she's got a little article here from the New York Times, quote unquote, news. He wasn't seeking to kill a mob boss. He was trying to help Trump, his lawyer says. In new court documents, the lawyer for Anthony Comello says he became obsessed by far-right QAnon conspiracy theories. Anthony Comello, 24, is charged with killing a Gambino crime family boss. And there you can see him right there. And this cop's not happy with him because the cop follows Q. He's like, you don't follow Q. You don't even know. I saw it on your hand. It said, where we go most, we go all. That doesn't even make sense, dummy. As his pickup truck roared towards the Taut Hill section of Staten Island, Anthony Comello had no intention of killing a mob boss. He only wanted to arrest him, even though he's not a police officer. His lawyer said in new court documents, the details of what happened next are well known, except for, I don't know. Do you know? I don't know. It's not, I don't know. Mr. Comello, 24, arrived at the home of Francesco Frankie Boy Cali, a leader in the Gambino crime family, and lured him outside. The men spoke briefly. Then, prosecutors say Mr. Comello pulled a gun from his car and shot Mr. Cali, leaving him to die in the street. Wow. Plan B, I guess. Thought he only wanted to arrest him. Mr. Comello, an aimless young man, well, he shot Mr. Cali, he can't be that aimless, who lived with his parents on Staten Island, was arrested 3 days later and charged with murder. And ladies and gentlemen, dealing with the mob is tricky. If you really want a professional, you got to find yourself an aimless young man who lives with his parents. But court documents filed on Friday offered a glimpse into the deeply troubled mind of Mr. Comello, who his defense lawyer says was so deluded by internet conspiracy theories like, FISA abuse and all that he was determined to conduct a citizen's arrest of Mr. Cali and turn the mafia leader over to the military. Not the police, the military. He ardently believed that Francesco Cali, a boss in the Gambino crime family, was a prominent member of the deep state and accordingly an appropriate target for citizen's arrest, wrote Mr. Comello's lawyer, Robert C. Gottlieb. Okay, so this gets really, really strange. At times, the circumstances of Mr. Cali's demise have seemed so outlandish that they appeared specially designed for these viral times. But a clearer picture is emerging of how the tale's incongruous pieces, a mob boss, a drifter from Staten Island, and far-right conspiracy theory may fit together. Wow, who's the conspiracy theorist now? Okay, so they go on to say that he's getting all up in QAnon, right? Now check this out. Let's go down here. It says that delusion will be part of a package of evidence that Mr. Gottlieb says he plans to submit to the court that prove Mr. Comello is not guilty by reasons of mental defect. So, does that mean millions of us are mentally defective? Mr. Gottlieb is seeking to have the court place Mr. Comello in psychiatric treatment. Well, I have a feeling that was probably what got him in the problem in the first place, rather than prosecute him on murder charges. All right, so it goes to talk about QAnon down here. QAnon, a baseless conspiracy theory that originated on internet message boards, played a key role in Mr. Comello's descent into mental instability, his lawyer said. It claims, among other things, that America is controlled by a deep state, that prominent Democrat politicians are pedophiles, and that John F. Kennedy Jr., who died in a 1999 plane crash, is secretly alive and will run for president in 2020. At Mr. Comello's first court appearance in March, March, he displayed symbols and phrases associated with QAnon scrawled on his hand in pen. And I just want to point out, you can take it or leave it, but I have some sources that were in the courtroom that actually stated that he came out. It looked like they had encouraged him to put it on his hand because when he first came out, he didn't have it. You can take that or leave it, but that's what some are telling me that have claimed to have been in the courtroom. He first began to take an interest in political conspiracy theories, Mr. Gottlieb said, in the weeks after Mr. Trump's 2016 election. Wait a minute. He first began to take an interest in political conspiracy theories, Mr. Gottlieb said, in the weeks after Mr. Trump's 2016 election. Well, I most certainly hope you're not talking about QAnon. We're going to have to fact check that.
Fact check, checking, fact check.
Well, anybody who knows that QAnon did not post until October 2017. That was the first post. That was well after 2016 when Homeboy was getting into all his conspiracy theories. So he must have been getting into something else. It wasn't Q, it was something else, I guess. Every single dirty tactic being deployed to stop the growth of this movement. Yeah, and if you're on any kind of social media platform as of late, you know there's tons of 0 and 1 follower trolls getting all up in your grill, calling you a moron, calling you an idiot, calling you a traitor, calling you a sheep. We know what's up. Ask yourself a very simple Q. Why? Well, because they're complicit. Why are the biggest media companies in the world? Yeah, they're doing everything to make sure that you're shadow banned, that you can't see mine and other content creator videos. They're trying to keep us apart. They're trying to clown us, trying to do whatever they can, and they're all out in full force. So we know the complicity, right? We know that essentially the intelligence agencies were sharing information with them, and they were teeing up those stories, and nobody better to tee up those stories than Maggie Haberman. She was mentioned in the WikiLeaks emails as doing just that. She knows it. She knows that we know. She knows that Trump knows, that Q knows, that we know, that she knows. And so everybody knows. Everybody knows is what I'm saying. All right, Patriots, those are your Q posts. As you may or may not know, we've had another blackout in New York. It looks like it was affecting Brooklyn, the Bronx, and the Queens. Now, I've got you pinged here in Midtown Manhattan, which I don't imagine would have been covered by the blackout, but I wanted to point out a couple quick things here. Now, first of all, this blackout once again is Con Edison. And if you've not watched my video, The Weatherman, you know that Con Edison has long been run by some of the most powerful families. One of the ones I talk about in The Weatherman, of course, is Thomas G. Ayers, who is long since dead, but father of Bill Ayers, co-founder of the Weather Underground. And obviously, there's still a lot of knuckleheads wrapped up in all of that. But I just want to point out that it was Con Edison, and it was 30,000 originally. I think it's grown to much more than that. I'm not sure if they've gotten power back on, but it is another blackout. Now, there's a lot of people been asking about whether or not this is, trying to get El Chapo out or if, trying to get Epstein out, who are being held in the same place. I don't believe that would be the case. That seems to be a little further away from there, but who knows what is going down. But I want to show you something I thought rather interesting. Now, I've got you pinged here to 116 East 56th Street. This is like Midtown Manhattan. And I want to point out that St. Patrick's Cathedral is nearby here. Rockefeller Center is not too far here. And if you can see right over here, this is where Trump Tower is here. But we are going to zoom in on 116 East 56th Street. Now, this was the former residence of Ghislaine Maxwell. And Ghislaine Maxwell is essentially the hookup lady for Jeffrey Epstein, right? So if Rachel Chandler is sort of the young, hot superstar, then Ghislaine Maxwell is the savvy veteran, right? And she's from a very influential publication, mogul herself, right? Now, I just want to point out, she doesn't live here anymore. She sold this back in 2016 to a Frederick Rudd, who is also a real estate mogul. And odd thing about him is that he had not only bought up this property at a very strange time, but he also bought up a property of former chop shop owner, Michael Pescatore. Here's the story right here in the New York Post, but bought it for $15 million. So he's all about buying up these funky properties here. Now, we're not going to go way into the neighborhood here because there's a lot I think that we could probably find. I'm just going to give you a little bit. But I want to point out here that right across the street from 116 East 56th Street is this building right down here. We're going to take you down there, right to street level. We're going to check out, see what it says. And would you look at that? The Child Mind Institute. Well, what is the Child Mind Institute? Well, here's their site right here. I guess they can tell us all about it. The Child Mind Institute is an independent, national, nonprofit dedicated to transforming the lives of children and families struggling with mental health and learning disorders. Our teams work every day to deliver the highest standards of care, advance the science of the developing brain, and empower parents, professionals, and policymakers to support children when and where they need it the most. Outstanding. More humanitarians and more neuroscience. Very cool. Well, this is a nonprofit that's very interesting because this is an expensive piece of real estate right here in Manhattan. Well, sitting at the top of that board of directors is one Brooke Garber-Nedick, who is also famous for her jewelry. Yeah, this is an article from 2015 from W Magazine, and you can see Nedick right there with her neat jewelry and the really creepy, odd, walking on his hands, little broke back Yeti looking thing behind her. Anyway, it's talking about this gala where they are raising money for the Child Mind Institute. As a matter of fact, they ended up raising $6 million. How about that? But it goes on to say, Brooke is Brooke Garber-Nedick, who co-founded the Child Mind Institute with the psychiatrist Harold S. Koplowitz, and who that night was presenting an award to her close friend, Hillary Rodham Clinton. That's right, boys and girls. Where there's kids, there's a Clinton. Though unassuming in every way, save the amount of jewelry she tends to have on her person at any given moment, Nedick is a powerhouse in New York cultural, political, and philanthropic circles. She's also co-chair of the Whitney Museum Board, and that's really important to remember. She grew up working in her father's Michigan Avenue jewelry store, where her responsibilities included Windexing the display cases. When Garber died in 2008, Nedick had the choice to close the business or make a go of it. Not having the heart to lay off the staff, she chose the latter. I also thought, if I close this business, where am I going to get jewelry, she said. Only half joking. Now, this article goes on to talk about some of her socialite friends and how she went on to raise $6 million that night for her Child Mind Institute. One of these friends was Mickey Drexler, CEO of J. Crew, former now. She left in June of 2017. But at the time, J. Crew was number 2, right behind L Brands, which of course was owned by Les Wexner of Victoria's Secret and Jeffrey Epstein's buddy fame. So here's the part where it talks about the money and the Whitney Institute also. Now, I want to also mention that she always was carrying around these bracelets, and it looks like she kind of gifts them to people, and then they almost kind of feel guilty, and they end up buying it and whatnot, and who knows what exchange is really going on here. But it says, I don't get it. You just did this on charm and charisma? Actually, yes. Or as Clinton puts it, if Brooke asks you to do something, quickly say yes, because you will get there eventually. Okay, so they're definitely some buddies. Then they go talking about how she meets Mario Grauso, the former president of Vera Wang. So she's definitely wrapped up in the fashion world. He said, if you don't open a store in New York, you're cheating any philanthropy you're involved with, recalls Nedick, who since 2010 has been giving all of her profits to the Whitney, Child Mind, and the Lincoln Center Theater. He got me. Okay. There's a lot more here, just mostly talking about some of her social details. One of them that was that she made some jewelry for the Olsen twins of the Full House fame. And of course, they're fashionistas too, and always looking magically emaciated. But the point I want to make is that she's been giving all her profits to the Whitney. Well, you may remember this story from November 2018. Whitney Museum staffers demand answers after vice chair's relationship to tear gas manufacturer is revealed. And let me just give you the heart of the matter, because this isn't really the big story I'm wanting to talk about. But it says here, Whitney Museum Vice Chairman Warren B. Kanders purchased the defense manufacturer Safariland in 2012 for $124 million. The company was just one of 2 companies owned by Kanders whose logos appeared on the tear gas canisters and smoke grenades launched as asylum seekers on the border between Tijuana, Mexico, and San Diego, California on November 25th, according to multiple on-site reporters. Yeah, and they wrote him a nasty letter saying, "Dear Sir, we're outraged." But that's not what I want to talk about. I do want to talk about this story from 2004, Whitney Museum scandal. Kind of gone, but not forgotten. Hey, remember when the Whitney Museum was all hot and controversial? In case you don't, the museum was defaced by scandal when board member Robert Hearst was scoped out by the Times for evading taxes on art purchases. We hear, however, that the paper's Tim O'Brien is back to digging away at the museum's finances and direction, under new director Adam Weinberg. We're thinking that there's more to come on Robert Hearst, seeing as he's held onto his position despite embarrassing everyone around him. After the jump, an anonymous reader reports on the artsy fartsy fracas and possible motives for the continued scrutiny. So here's the heart of this story. Speculation is that the story is fueled by former director Maxwell Anderson's lust for revenge at the institution and board who tossed him out. Clues: Anderson, self-proclaimed leader of the digital vanguard in the museum world, an obsessive compulsive emailer, has apparently left a digital trail including accusations of trustee cronyism and interference, and recently implications of his public retribution. And at the Times, in recent articles that have left knowledgeable people scratching their heads, lead art critic Michael Kimmelman has been buffing up the public memory of Anderson, who many feel embarrassed both himself and the museum. Why embarrassment? His installation of an electric eye at the door of the museum's staff annex to artificially increase the museum's visitor numbers, the weekly broadcast email updates on his wife's acting career, featuring clips of the lingerie-clad thespian in Hack and similar dramatic gems, along with the suggestion that a write-in campaign might get the missus a permanent role. Anderson's ill-concealed, obsessive jealousy of Whitney Godfather Board President Leonard Lauder and other New York Museum directors, MoMA's Glenn Lowry in particular. All right, so this guy was buying up some art and not paying his taxes. Not surprising. But what I really wanted to point out was that the Whitney was founded by Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney. That's right, from the wealthy Vanderbilt family. Okay, and she ended up marrying Harry Payne Whitney, who was son, banker, investor, son of William Collins Whitney, and his mother, the former Flora Payne, was the daughter of a U.S. senator and sister of a Standard Oil Company magnate. Okay, so big names involved in the Whitney, one of them being a Vanderbilt. Okay, so we're seeing a lot of connections here between all these art lovers like Epstein and Podesta and this Nedick and, of course, the Whitneys, the Vanderbilts, and they all seem to care about the kids. They also seem to really like drugs and neuroscience. Now I want to take you on what seems to be a left turn here for a second. This is SOTT.net, SOTT.net, sign of the Times. And it's an article from 2012 entitled How Kids Are Getting Hooked on Pills for Life. But let me take you here. Young children were once expected to outgrow their issues. Now they're diagnosed with lifelong psychiatric problems. Yeah, why is that? Let me skip through some of this here. For many, the face of the drugs, not hugs message is Harold Koplowitz. And if that name sounds familiar, that is the co-founder of the Child Mind Institute. Also, author of the pop bestseller, It's Nobody's Fault, and former head of NYU's prestigious Child Studies Center. In a 1999 Salon article, Koplowitz reiterated his no-fault statement, assuring parents that psychiatric illness is not caused by bad parenting. It is not that your mother got divorced or that your father didn't wipe you the right way, he said. It really is DNA roulette. You got blue eyes, blonde hair, sometimes a musical ear, but sometimes you get the predisposition for depression. Many regard the NYU Child Study Center, which Koplowitz founded and led before leaving in 2009 to start its own facility, as helping to usher in the world of brave new pediatric medicine in which children, toddlers, and infants once expected to outgrow their problems are now diagnosed with lifelong psychiatric problems. That doesn't sound like anything's getting better. The Child Study Center is a threat to the health and welfare of children, and its doctors are hustlers working to increase their client population and their commercial value to psychotropic drug manufacturers. Psychotropic drug manufacturers, charged Vera Sharav, president of the Watchdog Group, Alliance for Human Research Protection. Okay, so he took a lot of heat for this. And it said here, in 2007, the fears of the Child Study Center's skeptics were confirmed when it launched an aggressive scare tactic marketing campaign called Ransom Notes in 2007. "We have your son," said one ad, created with bits of disparate type like a ransom note from a kidnapper. "We will make sure he no longer be able to care for himself or interact socially as long as he lives. This is only the beginning. Autism." Okay, so that's super, super creepy. Here's another one. "We are in possession of your son. We are making him squirm and fidget until he is a detriment to himself and those around him. Ignore this and your kid will pay," says another ad from ADHD. My goodness, those are ads right there. So obviously this drew tons of backlash, and that's what it's talking about here. Now, let me get to the key part here. There was more controversy when Koplowitz left the center. When he announced his resignation, New York University forbade him from entering his office, and it pushed out professors who had said they wanted to join him at Child Mind Institute, reported the New York Times. 12 NYU professors nevertheless followed Koplowitz to the Child Mind Institute, as well as most of the Child Study Center's influential board of directors, which included, there's our girl, Garber Nedick, chairwoman at the Whitney Museum, the founders of the Tribeca Film Festival founders, and some well-known financiers. The toxic send-off was followed by the New York State Office of Mental Health firing Koplowitz from his job of nearly 4 years as director of the Nathan Klein Institute for Psychiatric Research, an affiliate of NY School of Medicine. Though Koplowitz's Child Mind Institute is supposedly a nonprofit, it's ensconced on Park Avenue in Manhattan, and Koplowitz's hourly rate can be as high as $1,000, 3 to 4 times that of the average Manhattan therapist, says the Times. In a chilling interview on Education Update Online, Koplowitz says the reason his institute works closely with schools is simply that that's where the kids are, bringing to mind Willie Sutton, who robbed banks because that's where the money is. All right, Patriots, so that's about all I got for now on this. And as you can see right here, here's Hillary Clinton speaking back in November of 2017 at the Child Mind Institute Summit. So this was going all the way to the top. And of course, it looks like the doctors here that had gone over here were essentially these rogue doctors that were being accused of not just drugging these kids, but keeping them drugged for a lifetime. And of course, that's some really chilling words there, saying that we work with schools because that's where the kids are. They clearly wanted to be near the kids. So this Ghislaine Maxwell was literally living right across the street at the time. Keep in mind, she hasn't lived there since 2016, but the Institute is still there. Still seems to be wrapped up with the Clintons here. And of course, they are wrapped up with the Whitney, which is wrapped up with the Vanderbilts and all the other families we've been talking about for quite some time. So there you go. All right, Patriots, that's all I got for you for now. As always, if you like this video, please click like, share, and subscribe. Thanks to all of you who do that already. If you're new to my channel, welcome to you. Please understand that you're going to get unclicked and unsubscribed and unnotified from time to time. Just do me a favor and please keep checking back. And I highly suggest if you find links that work, you might want to save them and use them as a hyperlink if you're having a hard time finding my videos. I'm going to say that again because I get emailed about this all the time. I highly suggest that once you do link to me, you try and take some of those links and use them as a hyperlink to keep connecting so that you can find my future videos. I post when Q posts, and if Q's not posting, I'm usually working on some other projects. In regards to the Weatherman, it depends on really how much Q posts over this week. If Q gives a little bit of a break, then I will get a chance to kind of work more on that, but I've got about 40 minutes of footage that I was able to rescue from my little debacle a couple weeks ago. Anyway, all my links are down below: my Gab, my Real.video, my BitChute, my DropSpace, and of course I'm here at Twitter at IPOT1776. That's IPOT1776. If you want to send me some information, please email me. Do not DM me on Twitter. Please email me. My email is linked down below. If you want to send something old school, I got a P.O. box for you down below. And if you'd like to support the channel, my Patreon link is down below too. All those links are in the video description down below. All right, kids, this is Sir Patrick Mack, and until next time, stay hopeful.